It's the Brad and John Show.
Brad and John Show. This is the B Block. Today's date is June 27th. It's a Friday. And John, you know what happens on Friday? Actually, it happens every day of the week now. And what day is this now? Come on, tell me the truth.
And it's not every day of the week. It's every weekday.
Every weekday. Okay, excuse me. And I didn't have you potted up there. So go say it again now.
It is, I believe it's the 12th day in a row of this show that you've done Brad's Top 3.
Are you ready?
I'm ready, Brad.
It's time for Brad's Top 3.
That's right. And you just can't say it once. You have to say it twice. Ladies, one more time.
It's time for Brad's Top.
That is. And we go right to...
It's number 3.
It is number 3. John, I need your help on this. I read a couple articles, more articles yesterday on agri-terrorism. And you being the guy who has a lot of ag background with your years at Monsanto/Bayer, is this a big deal, or is this pumped up, sort of just the press is going, well, there could be problems with our crops? Do you think this is a real issue?
Yeah. I mean, I think, in what context did you read because agri-terrorism has always been a threat, but in what context did you read it, Brett?
Well, they were talking about the fact that they arrested the Chinese couple who were, I think University of Michigan researchers or something like that, and they were caught
with the fungus, yeah.
Right, with the fungus among us. They were coming into the country with the baggies with fungus in it and stuff like that. And a couple of the articles, I don't know if it was just me what I was reading yesterday, but a couple of the articles talked about this is going to be the next thing that we should be concerned about, especially since we dropped the big bombs on Iran because of the fact that they have a habit of asymmetrical warfare. You know, it wouldn't be a show without me saying asymmetrical warfare.
That's true, Brad, but you don't have to mention drones this time. You can just mention fungus.
Right, fungus among us. I mean, John, is it when you were at Monsanto/Bayer, did this ever come up?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always broadly been in the how would you say it, in the portfolio of issues that people worry about. Yeah, I don't know what to say about it other than I think if you were to terrorize let's make it a verb. If you were to terrorize the U.S. food system, I think there's other ways you could go about it rather than, some Chinese nationalists bringing in fungus. I think you would go about somehow poisoning the food system, after grain has already been processed or after grain is going to, after farmers are actually taking their stuff to market. But who knows, Brad? I mean, I would presume the folks in the federal government have a pretty good relationship with state government folks in terms of, okay, if we detect that there is a terrible invasive insect or there's a terrible invasive fungus, here's how we would act in a stewardship way to steward the grain in that area to make sure that it doesn't leave, things like that. Now, we did see, Brad, the New World Screwworm, and we mentioned this on the show a few weeks ago, that there was a fake news report that was on some online website, and a Missouri news source in northeast Missouri, I believe, picked it up. And there was terror in the markets because there was like, oh my gosh, there's a new pest. It might affect the price of our grain when we take it to market on our August call date. Anyway, I guess it's just a long-winded way of saying, Brad, I think agri-terrorism has always been there, and folks are wise to be vigilant about it.
What was that name you said?
The New World Screwworm.
I think she's at PT's this weekend.
She is, yeah. I mean, first we have Josh Hawley using the word screwing, which I think is strange. Yeah, but the New World Screwworm, which is not to be confused with a screwball, which was popularized by Christy Mathewson, the Hall of Fame hurler.
Well,
yeah, and Brad, just while we were talking, I looked up Agri-terrorism 2025, and I do see that there is a Fox News story from 4 hours ago that says Chinese agri-terrorism could threaten U.S. survival.
Well, see, that's what was interesting, because I saw a couple of these articles yesterday, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, why is this popping up? And essentially what you talked about after the crops are harvested, this was things that would essentially make the crops either die or some kind of blight or something like that. So in other words,
and the spread of disease. The strange thing about it, though, Brad, is if you think about it, if you put your proverbial black hat on, and you think about how you would do it, it's pretty hard. I mean, I'm no plant biologist, but it would be pretty hard to take some sort of fungus or some sort of blight producing material and say, okay, I'm going to go out to a farm in St. Charles County and I'm going to apply this in the daytime or at night to a certain set of crops and really hope that somehow it makes its way across St. Charles County into Franklin County. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hear you.
I think it's hard enough to try. I think it would be hard to manufacture agro-terrorism.
Okay. Well, I just, it's interesting. You pick up an article. I didn't see that one on Fox 4 hours ago. It's like, okay, we have these 2 Chinese people they arrested, and then it sort of went silent for a while. Now it's back again. I just thought you'd have the
Yeah, that's all I know so far, Brad.
Are you ready for my number 2?
I sure am.
It's time for Brad's number 2.
It's number 2.
It's time for Brad's number
I'm sorry, she's got to sing it twice. Have you heard this bizarre story about this guy dubbed Liver King who went to...
Oh, yeah, Brad. He's been in the news for I think probably a year ago was his big downfall, right?
Well, the deal is now they've arrested him in Austin. Have you heard this part of the deal?
Yeah, I saw the arrest, actually. It looked very sad. He looked to be homeless.
Right.
But, I mean, he's clearly not. But, I mean, he looked like what you would picture a typical weird homeless Austin man looking like.
Well, he's not from Austin. He traveled to Austin, and he was traveling to Austin to essentially assassinate Joe Rogan. I'm going like, what is this? You know,
and I guess Rogan has been. Does he blame Rogan for his original downfall?
I don't know. The whole thing
and
is.
And for folks who don't know, are you familiar with the background of him?
No, not really.
I don't know. Excuse me. I don't know much, but I do know he I guess came to prominence via whether it was Instagram. Excuse me. Whether it's Instagram or TikTok, and his whole gimmick was. He was selling the benefits of eating liver. And so that was his profit model, I guess. And then he was eventually exposed as just being on straight up steroids. I don't think it was testosterone replacement therapy. I think it was straight up steroids. And then he eventually admitted, okay, I lied. Because he was saying he turned his health around. And the reason why at his age he was so ripped is because he just ate liver every day.
Right.
And you can do it too if you order my liver supplements.
So
he had a big downfall. And I'm guessing now, Brad, piecing it together, that he somehow blames Joe Rogan for it.
Well, he's got, like you said, he's got like the bodybuilder kind of body. And he's not a young guy. I think he's probably, in his 40s or 50s or something like that.
I'll look that up while we're talking.
And so the bizarre part of it is he essentially is making these posts saying, I'm headed to Austin. And they arrest him at a hotel or something like that. And he's actually making death threats to Joe Rogan. John, I'm going to ask you something nosy, okay? Have you ever had a legitimate death threat waged against you?
Not that was by someone who could actually carry it out and be serious. No.
You always make fun of me telling my stories. I've had 2 death threats against me, both serious, one of which a guy fired a gun at me.
Wow. Now, was it random or did he know you?
I knew him.
Okay.
It's a bizarre, weird story, which I won't go into. And I believe for a while the guy had a business in St. Charles County. The bizarre part of it was, if I go too much into the story, the guy he was married to, let's say, a multi-millionaire. And apparently the way the marriage was structured, that she had all the money and he had little or no access to it. And it was like a super duty prenuptial kind of thing. So he was running businesses and they were not very successful. And that was my dealing with him, where he was running a business which was unsuccessful. And he owed me money. And I was not happy about that, and he showed up at another business and decided he was going to take me out, and he took a shot at me, and it missed. How's that for another story, John?
Wow, Brad.
Okay, ready for
is this designed as a warning to anyone who may mess with you that, like, you're untouchable?
No, it's just, the bizarre part of this is the second death threat was a woman who was girlfriends with one of my employees who decided I was not treating her properly, so she issued death threats against me. And it got so bad that I literally had to go to a local police department. And at first, the police officer and actually the chief of this police department did not necessarily believe me. And then I brought them, a couple weeks later, I brought them back as to the identity of this person, irrefutable evidence, and they called these two people in, and they admitted the whole thing. How about that, John?
Wow, Brad.
Yeah, sort of bizarre. Okay, it's time for number one. You ready?
And
I
now,
am.
Big finish, Brad's number.
Okay, John, your research on the Kansas City Chiefs thing what was the article you're referring to in the A block?
Well, primarily the Kansas City Star article, but I have a number of pieces up today about the stadium kerfluffle.
Did you read the Missouri Independent article?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's not from the Missouri Independent. You're looking at one from the Kansas Reflector, which was repeated.
Right, exactly.
And republished, right.
Okay.
It's by actually the Kansas Reflector. Yeah, I have the headline up today. Chiefs ask for extension of Kansas Stadium offer, raising possibility of leaving Missouri.
Well, if you read that article, it sounds like it's a done deal. They're moving to Kansas.
Yeah, I did read that article, Brad. And, yeah, I don't read that as it being a done deal at all.
Well, they're talking about there's conversation. The guy what's the name of the reporter? And actually, it was a very well written story. What's his name? You got it there, John?
I don't read anything having to do with Kansas. I only link to it because it has to do with the Chiefs.
Well, but it was on Missouri Independent, and it has to do with the Chiefs. But anyway, be that as it may.
Yeah, but it's by a reporter. His name is Tim Carpenter from the Kansas Reflector.
Okay, from what he's reporting. He's having interactions, at least the state of Kansas is having interactions with the general manager of the Chiefs, and it sure as hell sounds like it's a done deal for me. I mean, as far as what I'm reading, if this is correct, essentially they are close to signing a deal to moving the Chiefs to Kansas, Kansas State. Now, here's where I have the problem with this. There is political hay to be made here, okay? And once again, how long have I talked about the fact that I think it's utter ridiculousness that there has not been a movement by somebody in the state of Missouri to say, hey, Kansas City, other side of the state, we got this nice stadium. It's 20 years old, maybe needs a little bit of work, but you know what? We can probably get the state to pay for some repairs, and we got this dome. Not in the best of shape, but you know what? It's here, and guess what? There's also some world championship cred that goes to this dome because the Rams walked away with 2 Super Bowl victories. Or was it 1? Was it 2?
It was just 1, yeah.
Just 1, okay.
But yeah, Brad, you've been talking about that for months. You've been banging that drum.
Right, okay. Here is what some of the city leaders should be doing. They should be Kara and uniting with Sam Page, and not only that, now they have another enticement on the table that they can offer to the Kansas City Chiefs. Are you ready for this?
Yeah. Does it have to do with pickleball?
No, nothing to do with pickleball. Kara Spencer should call up this guy, the dude who's the general manager of the Chiefs, and said, "Hey, we know you're leaning to Kansas. We know you may be moving across the state line, but we have something for you. We will give you the dome. We'll give it to you. You can go and we'll sign the paperwork over it. It'll be your dome. You can do what you want with it. And then what we'll do is we will make Andy Reid the sheriff of the city of St. Louis. What do you think, Kansas City Chiefs?"
Brad, that is brilliant. What a great – I would have never thought of that, mostly because I'm a sane human being. But that's a great idea. Now, Andy Reid looks like an old-timey sheriff.
He does. See, I can see him with a blue shirt on, a big star, and big hog leg on, on his utility belt. Hey boy, what have you been doing? right.
Brad, when you start talking about a man's hog leg, I get a little nervous.
So, and think about it. If any of his Chiefs players got in trouble, he could just say, well, I'm the chief in this town, and I'm the chief. I'm the chief of the Chiefs, and I will just take that boy, and I'll take him out to the woodshed, and I'll just talk a little sense to him. There's no reason to have who's the current prosecuting attorney in the city right now? What's her name?
Oh, Gabe Gore.
Okay, excuse me, Gabe Gore. There's no reason to have Gabe Gore get his britches in a tizzy. We'll just take care of this, mano on mano. I'll use that again. And
but it fits there. And then if prisoners are on bad behavior, you can punish them by making them run laps around Andy Andy Reid.
So we have
take a trip around the orbit. Now, Brad, we'd be remiss if we didn't point out we haven't talked about this. It was just announced yesterday that Sunday on This Week in Missouri Politics, Scott Fawn has secured the one and only Alfred Montgomery to be a special guest on Sunday on This Week in Missouri Politics. Like, how awesome is that?
Yes. But so going back to my idea, the Chiefs being the chief, you don't like that?
No, the Andy Reid being the chief of chiefs, I love that.
That's what I'm saying.
It's almost, I'd say king of kings, but then you'd start talking about KFUO again, Brad.
He's the
chief of chiefs. Hallelujah, hallelujah, and Lord of lords. Wow, I feel like I'm driving through the Westplex and getting 104.5 signal interference.
By the way, the saga continues on that as well, too. And there'll be more information on that today. So, okay, well, that's Brad's top three this morning. And that ends the B block. So we will move forward into the C block, which is, and I don't know if I have any crazy weird stories this morning, John. Am I going to disappoint you? Other than me making a 911 call, which ended up having a homeless guy, do eating some concrete in the parking lot of a convenience store.
Hey, you could probably request the body cam of that, and we could see a Brad Hildebrand cameo. The question everybody wants to know: did you run back out to your vehicle and put on your pink safety vest?
John, I will give you the recap in C block. Okay.
All right, I'll look forward to it.